are hanging their hat on, well, what's your evidence that the president withheld the military aid? The president's own chief of staff has admitted they withheld the military aid to get this investigation, this crazy DNC server investigation, which is part of a Russian disinformation campaign. The president's own chief of staff. I mean, they seem to be saying, unless Donald Trump writes out, I bribed Ukraine, the evidence will be insufficient. What every juror is told, and I don't think that the Senate is different than a jury here, at least it shouldn't be, is they don't leave their common sense at the door. There was no plausible explanation but one, and that was the president wanted this leverage to get Ukraine to do his political dirty work.
Do you, are you going to be a House impeachment manager?
That'll be up to the Speaker.
That's up to the Speaker. Would you like to be one? Would you like to be one of the prosecutors?
I don't want to get ahead of where we are, which is we haven't even brought up articles, made the decision about articles.
You don't? Is it possible you don't that articles are not filed this year?
I don't want to prejudge the outcome here. I do think the evidence, the facts of what the president did are really not contested. They're largely not contested. That's the remarkable thing. So the question is, knowing the president sought foreign interference in an election, knowing that he conditioned official acts to get political favors, are we prepared to say that that's okay, that's consistent with the duties of the office? And I will say this, members are going to have to think hard about two things. One, the knowledge that if we do nothing, it is very likely the president will do this again. But second, are Republicans prepared to say that they will allow this president and any future president to simply stonewall the Congress and refuse to provide evidence? And if they do, it means that the impeachment clause is a nullity. And more than that, it means that our oversight ability is also a nullity.
I know where you are in the whistleblower and the belief that you really don't need to hear from the whistleblower anymore. But you did pledge that the Intelligence Committee would hear from the whistleblower in some form or another. Are you going to fulfill that pledge?
We had a deep interest in having the whistleblower testify until two things happened. One, we were able to prove everything in the whistleblower complaint with witnesses that had hand information. And second, the president and his allies effectively put that whistleblower's life in danger. The president said the whistleblower and others should be treated as a traitor or a spy. And we ought to use the penalty we used to use for traitors and spies, and that's the death penalty. So here's the thing, Chuck. We don't need the whistleblower's secondhand evidence anymore. It would only serve to endanger this person and to gratify the president's desire for retribution, and that is not a good enough reason to bring in the whistleblower.
One last thing on the Senate trial. Is one of the reasons you're not going to fight to try to, in the courts right now for Bolton, is that you believe there's this theory that's been on, I think, Talking Points Memo, a liberal news organization, Josh Marshall. There's a legal theory running around that it's a lot easier to get the Chief Justice to compel John Bolton to testify at a Senate trial than it would be waiting around to get him to Congress. Do you buy to that theory?
I think that may very well be true. Now, people like John Bolton, whose deputies had the courage to come in and testify, are going to have to answer one day why they saved what they knew for a book rather than tell the country when the country needed to know. But I do think that when it comes to documents and witnesses, that if it comes to a trial, and again, we're getting far down the road here, that the Chief Justice will have to make a decision on requests for witnesses and documents. And so I don't envy that job.
He may say that you should be a witness. They may want to call you.
Well, look,
are you ready?
If the Senate wants to call me as a witness, then they pretty much made the decision not to take this process seriously. I'm not a fact witness. I was the chairman of one of the committees doing an investigation. I'm not in the shoes of a special counsel. I don't work for the Justice Department. All I can relate is what the witnesses said in deposition and in the open hearings, and that's no reason to call me as a witness.
Adam Schiff, I'm going to leave it there, Chair of the House Intelligence Committee. So right now, no public hearings scheduled for any time in the rest of this year.
But we don't foreclose the possibility of others.
All right. Adam Schiff, Democrat from California. Thanks for coming on, sharing your views.
Thank you.
And joining me now is Republican Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi. He's a member of the Armed Services Committee. He also co-chairs the Commission on Security and Cooperation.